In 1939, the year McMechen died, the Second World War had begun in Europe. Change for Americans, and anesthesiologists in particular, was imminent. Thousands of young physicians would soon be introduced to and forced to practice anesthesia near the battlefields and in military hospitals around the world. When they were drafted, they were taught 90-day courses that covered the clinical fundamentals of inhalational and regional anesthesia. Many discovered that they liked the specialty and wanted to pursue it as a medical career. At home, anesthesiologists' needs had changed. New anesthetic techniques were being developed. More complicated surgical procedures demanded new training and more sophisticated expertise. Such a unique set of converging events and circumstances in the history of anesthesia demanded an exceptionally uncommon leader and healer. Fortunately, history had been preparing such an individual. Emery Andrew Rovenstine was the uniquely positioned physician guide who would skillfully direct the development of anesthesiology at Bellevue Hospital, teach new anesthetic techniques worldwide, and become the father and founder of one of the most powerful and effectual meetings of physicians in the 20th century, the PGA. Rovenstine was born in Atwood, Indiana in 1895, the eldest of 4 sons. His family owned the general store. Emery, however, aspired to be a school teacher, a goal he achieved upon graduation from high school. However, it was his athletic ability in high school that resulted eventually in his entry into anesthesiology training at the University of Wisconsin. During his senior year, in the final quarter of a basketball game, during which young Rovenstine felt that the referee had stood in his way whenever he had the ball, he butted the referee in the stomach. The referee, a large man, picked Emery up and spanked him. By chance, the referee, a former athlete, was a physician on the faculty of the University of Indiana Medical School. His name was Arthur Goodell, none other than the distinguished anesthetist who first described the stages and planes of anesthesia. Following high school, Rovenstine taught school before serving as a second lieutenant in the Army Corps of Engineers during World War I. In France, he served on the front lines and was perplexed by the ravages of shock he observed. Soldiers who died with relatively minor injuries. He perhaps didn't realize the full implications of this experience for his future. Upon returning from the war, Rovenstine went to medical school and was taught by an old friend, Arthur Goodell. As a result of this special relationship, Goodell arranged an appointment for him with Ralph Waters at the University of Wisconsin. After spending 5 years in research and training in Waters' trailblazing Department of Anesthesiology, this brilliant and still young anesthesiologist, upon Waters' recommendation, boarded a train for New York City for an assignment and a career that would impact anesthesiology the world over. The year, 1935. When Rovenstine arrived at Bellevue, he inherited a department whose nurses administered anesthesia. A part-time physician was in charge. Immediately, he set about to establish a department which duplicated the Wisconsin Waters model from which he had come. He hired residents for his operation, and Waters sent some of his from Wisconsin. Locally, not everyone was delighted with the changes, of course. But changes did come rapidly, and within 5 years, he had transformed a department, demonstrated his brilliance and expertise in anesthesiology, and established a following. In the process, he had also become the teacher he had wanted to be. Rovenstine quickly became an international figure. He was invited to teach a 6-week course as a visiting lecturer in anesthesia at Oxford, England in 1938. He made repeated academic missions to South American countries, and after World War II represented anesthesia in the first medical teaching commission sponsored by the Unitarian Service Council in cooperation with the United Nations Refugee Relief Association. This extended visit to Czechoslovakia won international respect for his humanitarian service, as well as for his expertise in anesthesiology. As a result, the Award of the White Lion, the country's highest civilian award, was conferred by Czechoslovakia upon him. World War II had interrupted his international travel. However, Rovenstine continued to develop the academic department at Bellevue, teach his famous nerve block course, and develop his rationale for what would become the PGA.
Rovenstine had a conference he ran every Monday afternoon from, I think, 4 to 6 p.m. The hospital-wide. Everybody came to that in the Amphitheater K of the old Bellevue Hospital. We looked forward to that meeting. That kept us going for the time, even to when we were ready for the PGA meeting. And I was talking to Lou Brancato, a fellow New Yorker, and he said he remembers them very well. Nobody dared to keep away from it. Nothing interfered with that Monday afternoon conference. And I still remember the Amphitheater K, it was called.
During the war, he served on the Army Advisory Board and was responsible for the order to Army General Hospitals, which stated that the physician anesthetists were in complete charge of the operating room. That practice now exists almost worldwide. Rovenstine produced outstanding residents and anesthesiologists. One outstanding example is Emanuel M. Papper, who, after training with Rovenstine, remained at Bellevue as an attending anesthesiologist. He became professor and chairman of Columbia University's Department of Anesthesia in 1949, where he remained for 30 years, establishing a world-class research department. Papper led the formation of the Association of University Anesthesiologists, secured National Institutes of Health funding for anesthesiology, and later became Dean of the Faculty of Medicine and Vice President for Health Science Services at the University of Miami School of Medicine.